Hey guys, Joel here. In September, I wound up doing a series on filmmakers I really enjoy and highlighting their work and talking about my experience with them. And I wanted to follow suit by doing another series in October, but this one more squarely about my feature films and how I make feature films. And it might be ironic to do it in this setting with a green screen and lights because my films are very scrappy and I never really use lights. And at least film lights, but I just wanted to give it a more this is about filmmaking vibe, so that's why I'm surrounded by this stuff. It by no means means you need this stuff to make a movie, which I guess I'll get into. But firstly, I want to talk about how I improvise my movies, because all except one of my feature films are fully improvised. And I know when you hear improvised features, you probably think of the Anchorman movies. Anchorman, I don't think anyone's ever said that plural, but you think about how Hollywood improvises. And it's they have the whole plot, but then they just let their actors goof around in the scenes. But my movies are improvised in every aspect, from the technical elements, the camera work, the editing. I'm working all that out in my brain as I go, but even the story is made up as we go. And I guess I'll use Dax and I's movie Drowning in Potential as an example. So I showed up to LA first thing and I messaged Dax and I'm like, you want to make a movie together? And I had no real idea for this movie. I only had the inkling of the first scene, some sort of audition self-tape with Dax and me. And I pitched it to him and he's like, okay, sounds good. And without thinking of where the story could go or would go from there, we filmed that scene. And in this sense, it is truly improvised because we didn't know the ending. We didn't know what our characters would go through. But what's exciting about making a movie like this is you are living the story as these characters and you're making decisions. You're like, oh, my character's at a low point, so what would he do to, I don't know, self-sabotage? What would he do? And then you film a scene with a bad date scene where he's just not present. And then, maybe he has an audition scene and is building up towards this audition. So we know that. We're okay, so we start with the self-tape so we could work towards an audition. Does that audition go well? No. How does he take that? He takes it badly. Stories are very organic if you let them be. They emerge naturally, and when you tell a story organically, themes emerge. Every story has themes, inherently, but I find that it's so interesting to see what comes out of your subconscious when you're making films this way, because, this film that was very much day by day, we didn't even know who we were filming with each day. We did one scene with Alex Ernst, and that happened that night. Dax messaged him hey, you want to be in this movie? And he's like, let's film now. And Dax and I are like, what are we doing? So then we made up this scene with him on the street being this old high school friend of mine. And it kind of tied into the themes of the people struggling and people not really knowing what they're doing and flailing and my character being confronted by that. And I think we filmed over 2 weeks, and I don't think it was until the last day that we knew what the ending was going to be. We were every day we're in the last week, we're are we building towards the ending? Are we getting close? And then once we thought to do the repeat, the book ended scene, we're oh, this is the perfect ending. And I really love that ending. And you think an improv movie, your brain is oh, this is going to feel loose. It's going to feel structureless. It's going to feel not well planned out. And I think I wind up making the movies I want to make through this format anyways. I do like character stuff. I like stuff that's a little loose and awkward. I like scenes not going anywhere. I like just things to happen to people and not really having an intent behind it. Just a conversation with a neighbor, a fight with your best friend, something like that. It's just just feeling out day by day a story will make a story, and I guess that's the most obvious stupid point possible. But I've seen, and I do read the letterbox reviews of my movies, and there's an occasional sentiment I look forward to the day Joel really takes his time and scripts out a movie. Spoiler, I'm not going to. I don't like scripts at all. I don't like the guarantee of a script. I don't like the idea that like your movie's all laid out and all you have to do is execute it. That's so boring to me. People talk about filmmaking as problem solving. They talk about it as like each day you're solving these problems. And what's so cool about an improv movie is you give yourself 1,000 more problems to solve. Because when you have a scripted movie and it's storyboarded and it's plotted out and planned out and you have all the scheduling all figured out, all you got to do is like execute, and you got to make sure what you preordained to happen happens. But like when you're improvising, none of that is guaranteed. You're like, is this story even working? Where does this story go? Who are we filming with today? What are we doing today? Is this going to even wind up in the movie? All these just different questions, and you're not just doing this very simple level problem solving. You're doing an entire movie's worth of problem solving at once. Stuff that you would normally work through in the scripting process is happening at the same time as the shooting. And if it sounds stressful, I promise you it's actually probably less stressful, because I've been on a lot of sets that are planned and they're long and laborious, and even though they're planned out, they take twice as long as they anticipated. You're sitting around, the actors are sitting around, no one's really feeling engaged, no one's really feeling challenged. They're just, it's like, oh, we're filming now, say my lines, okay. Oh, we're filming again, say my lines. Oh, you know, it's not this constant like bing, bang, boom, boom that happens when you're improvising a movie, where you're literally like meeting up with somebody that day and you're like, okay, we're making this movie, and you fill them in on the movie and they're like, okay, what can I bring to this? And this person brings so much to it. And that's another part of improv I love, is that you're really engaging the people who are in the movie. You're not just having them play a character who you already have all these preconceived notions about from the page. You're like bringing this person day of, and you're like, what kind of character do you want to play? Do you want to play yourself? A lot of people, especially if they're not trained actors, are really good at playing themselves. So more times than not, having somebody play themselves or an exaggerated version of themselves leads to something that feels very grounded and realistic. And it's very comfortable for that person, because they don't feel like they're putting on a character or performing. And yeah, so many people came onto Dax and I's movie just like the day before, the day of, where, you know, I didn't know anyone in LA, so a lot of them were people I met through Dax, and since then I have become like great friends with. And it's just, I could talk forever about improvising, but I think the key thing I want to say is like, a lot of people tell you there's one way to make a movie, and I'm not here to tell you don't script a movie. If you like scripting a movie, go ahead and do it. But I'm here to tell you that like, if scripting feels really laborious to you, or you suffer from really bad writer's block, just start shooting, because a story will happen if you force it to, or if you just give it the breathing room to just go. And I always say, cut out the parts of filmmaking that feel like a chore to you, because you're told you have to do this rigid step by step. But there's so many things that I lost all interest in, like lighting. I was on too many student film sets where they brought fucking 30 lights for some reason to some random house, and they spent 8 hours setting it up, and I was sitting around with my finger in my ass as a PA, art director, or whatever role they gave me that day, and they were just setting up lights forever, and I'm like, I like how stuff looks how it is. It doesn't have that professional sheen. It doesn't look like a freaking, you know, Avengers IMAX movie with the dramatic 3-point lighting and stuff. But it looks realistic, and if you're good at color grading and you capture it well enough, it'll look fine on camera. So I got rid of lighting. And then auditioning, I don't like auditioning. I already spoke about it, but I don't like trying to force somebody into a predetermined character. I like finding the thing I want to make with that person, and finding their strong suits, and finding the character that they'd play, and finding a scene together, or something we do together well. So I don't audition. I'm like, you want to be in a movie? Great. And then I put that person in a movie and find out, like, you know, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be an actor, it could be a friend of a friend, you know. but it really just comes down to trusting people, trusting that people are interesting and everyone has like a story to tell and everyone can be interesting on camera given the like proper comfort zone, the proper level to be like, okay, I'm allowed to just find this. This isn't a stressful situation. And I don't like scripting, which I talked about. Those are the three big things I'm like, my process is my happy place. I love making movies like this. I love the spontaneity. I love the problem solving and all that. And I probably rambled and went in 100 directions, but I guess that's what this channel has inevitably become. It's my brain farting out. And I think I eventually get around to some good points. But yeah, improvising movies. I love doing it. I love movies. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.